they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. I said, I think Brady's going to crumble.
How about Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr.?
Hey everybody, and welcome to the 4th episode in honor of Brett Favre, or maybe we shouldn't say his name, with his lately. Punt Off. That's just a whole crazy situation in itself. Speaking of crazy, week 2, more madness that we had in week 1. It was brought into week 2. With me, of course, is John Alcorn. You've seen him on Ice and Network here, across the universe, among other shows. How are you, John?
Partly pissy, but also really, really good. Because all I have to say, how about Thomas Brady and that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense? And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but I'm doing good. Happy to be on, and yeah, dude, this is the craziest first 2 weeks I've seen in football almost in my lifetime.
Man, that whole last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the early games. There was 3 of those finishes, and then there was one that hurt me personally in the afternoon.
No, really.
Thursday night, we came in, of course, saying, hey, that Chargers-Chiefs game, it was going to be awesome. There's going to be 1 billion points scored, inflation of points, right? Not so much. It was pretty much a defensive battle. It was 10-7 at the half. The Chargers led. Both exchanged touchdowns in the third. And then Kansas City, the running game got better. Pat Mahomes did his thing. The Chargers tried, and good for Justin Herbert. He was taking shots to his left side of his ribs all night long, and finally in the fourth quarter he was really feeling it. And for him to stay in and throw that late pass that got him close to the touchdown, they ended up scoring, couldn't get the offside kick, but just to lose by 3 to the Chiefs with your quarterback injured, that speaks that the Chargers are really good. I mean, they're really close to the Chiefs there in this Western division of the AFC. Really quick. So the final score, 27-24. Again, you got to give it up. Justin Herbert, 334 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 2 sacks. Pat Mahomes played well, 235 yards passing. Not as big numbers, but the Charger defense is that good. He threw for 2 touchdowns and 1 sack. Nothing really on the ground again for the Chargers. There were some key first downs and some 8-yard runs by Eckler and Kelly. But again, they don't run the ball. They just they pass to Eckler. For the Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he didn't do as well as everyone did in Arizona last week. Receiving-wise, the Chargers, Mike Williams balled out without Keenan Allen being there. He had 8 receptions with 113 yards. Palmer ended up catching a touchdown. Gerald Everett seemed banged up. I think it was early in the fourth quarter. Not banged up, but just tired because they went no huddle to keep that Kansas City defense on the field. He was ready to go out of a play. They brought him back. He stayed in the game just as a decoy, but Hubert threw his way. And I forget who it was, but he went, 99 yards for the touchdown. I have it. Yeah, Watson. Mm-hmm. He went the other way for 99 yards that just put the game away in a sense. So that was the only thing that kept the Chargers from winning. Receiving-wise, Kelsey and Watson, both tight ends, just had 50 yards receiving. Watson had the touchdown. McKinnon had the other touchdown, but nothing else from the receiving corps for Kansas City. So, John, what was your impressions of that Thursday night game?
I'm pretty sure I picked the Chiefs, and this is why. First of all, I don't know what it is about the Chargers. I don't understand. When they start off really good, really hot, they played really well. They held the Chiefs to 7 points in the first half. So many people thought that if you don't have Tyreek Hill, you're going to be screwed. You still have Travis Kelce. You still have your running tank. You still have pretty much everything on the board. But that seventh round rookie, I mean, this I think James, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to be the highlight, his biggest play of his career. From a guy that was about to be Mr. Irrelevant to now getting the game-winning pick six, the game-winning touchdown. And this is a test of how tough Justin Herbert is, but this is why I think why so many people were drinking the Kool-Aid of when Tyreek Hill does leave Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden is going to play like a homer. You're going to play like Adam Sandler played the quarterback. You're going to play like Adam Sandler did and Happy Gilmore playing golf. That's just not going to happen. When you see a quarterback, how good he is, regardless of, it's nice to have an added luxury in Tyreek Hill. You can throw the ball down deep, but sooner or later, like you said, last year, it was going to happen this year if Tyreek Hill didn't go. Defenses are going to figure them out. They're going to have a couple of safeties deep. You're going to have a couple of guys in the box. You're going to have two guys out the middle. So really, it's great to have Tyreek Hill, but it's not like people acting like the Chiefs are going to go 3-14. People act like the Chiefs are going to have a losing record. Like, stop the cap, as James talks about time and time again. With Justin Herbert, though, I'm not sure if he will play moving forward. But I think for the Chargers, though, do not rush him back, because it's also that tough situation where this offseason, before they start the 2023 season, you're going to have to pick up his fifth-year option, or you're going to have to you're obviously going to. So at that point, do you give him his fifth-year option before 2020 or 2024, or do you give him a new contract? Do what the Eagles did with Carson Wentz, even though he didn't get into the Super Bowl. Nick Foles did. He got into the 12-13 wins, got into the NFC East. For the Chiefs, though, and I think this is where, like I said, people were freaking out, like, oh, Tyreek Hill's gone. Then you're going to say if Patrick Mahomes threw 250, 320 yards, he's not a good quarterback. I'm like, are you serious? Like Shannon said, the expectations have been so high for Patrick Mahomes that if he doesn't have a game of 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, like I say, doesn't rookie mode on Madden or AA, then he didn't have a good game. Like, this present, not just for this game, is going to show moving forward without Tyreek Hill, where they have Crowder and Solaire. They have their running backs. They have Travis Kelce. You have your rookie. You have your offensive line. Guys that can play. You may get 250 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, but your defense has an interception, or your defense gets a key sack. So you're not going to see that Patrick Mahomes not necessarily he'll be in the MVP talks, but even if he doesn't, it benefits them because it also helps them for not getting sacked as much. You're getting rid of the ball quicker. So I give him full credit, though. This game drove me nuts. I probably nearly wanted to lose my voice because I was, me in football, it goes crazy all the time. But the Chargers, man, it's going to be tough, though, because you know how the AFC West is going to be this year. It could maybe be the toughest division of football. Again, I know it's only the first 2 weeks, and I know we said it would be, but based on how like the Broncos and other teams are playing, it's going to be tough. But Justin Herbert, man, I give him full credit. Man, you played through cracked wrists. I think that's awesome. But at the same time, I don't want to see you do that because I don't want your career to be done so quickly. But pass out to the Chiefs for it in this game, man, because it continues to show. Some people drink the Kool-Aid. Do not drink the Kool-Aid. Do not underestimate Patrick Mahomes, even though he puts ketchup on steak.
Sunday games, the early ones. First, it was the Jets and the Browns. Now, this game the Browns had in the bag. No doubt about it. They were up, what was it? It was tied at the half, 14. Cleveland and them exchanged field goals, and then they were up 30-17 with 2:02 to go in the fourth. And you thought, okay, they got it. No doubt about it. It's only Joe Flacco, Then they score a touchdown. They get the onside kick to do the Jets. They go down, score another one, and win 31-30. Now, Joe Flacco, I guess he heard all the criticism and whatnot saying, what is he still doing in the league? It's 2022. He was good 10 years ago, literally. What is he still doing in the league? Well, he threw for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked twice. Couldn't believe that. Nothing much on the ground for the Jets, but in the air, Wilson for them, 8 receptions, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. Davis had the all-important touchdown, and then Hall, the running back, had a touchdown as well. Really let down. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, he did all he could. He threw for 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and 1 sack. On the ground, Nick Chubb, he didn't do as well. He did score 3 touchdowns, but he had 17 carries, only 87 yards. That was kind of a shocker to me. In the air, though, Amari Cooper, he stood out. 9 receptions, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. But you know what's weird to me, John, and this is the last I'll talk about this game.
Sure.
David Njoku, they just signed him back long term.
Mm-hmm.
He only had 3 receptions and 32 yards. I thought he was going to be more of a focal point in this team's offense, no matter who was going to be the coach, whatever the case was. And he never seems to be a target. I don't know what it is, but I expected more out of him when he got drafted, I think in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to be more of a focal point, but they could have used him, in certain downs and certain third down plays. He could have been the man there, because I know they were going to Cooper a lot. But the Jets, I mean, they shocked everybody with this 1-point win in Cleveland. What do you think about this one?
I looked this up and I saw this on social media. The Browns had almost a 99.5% chance. Yeah, over a 98.5% chance to win this game. We're going to the Njoku thing. The Browns don't know how to game plan with the tight end. Because mind you, 2018, his quarterback was Sean Kaiser. After the 2020 season, they signed Austin Hooper to a $50+ million contract. Not a year later, he's gone. After a $50+ million contract, are you freaking serious? So they bring him back. Remember, David Njoku in college had over 60.5 yards per catch his last year in college. But again, they don't know how to game plan as an offense because at the same time, Jacoby Brissett, we know what he's going to do. He's not even a game manager. When we're talking about game managers, Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo. Right now, it's obviously going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, but yesterday we'll talk about that a little bit. But it just shows how miserable and stupid the Browns are. How do you lose? Not just only just, and people are like, oh, why is Joe Flacco still in the league? I'm not a Joe Flacco fan whatsoever. Obviously, being a former Broncos fan, that's traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a guy that even though, it has success a while, but if organizations and franchises keep giving me contracts, keep giving me millions of dollars, why would I turn that down? That doesn't make any sense. But I understand from a fan perspective, but from a Joe Flacco perspective, heck yeah, I'm going to take that. Heck, remember, this is not his first stint in New York. He had his first stint in New York after it didn't work out, obviously, in Denver in that failed Case Keenum. But it just shows, this week 2 has been absolutely insane. You were down, like I said, 30-17, 2 minutes left. I saw that, Browns got in the bag. They're, going to be 2-0. It's going to be great. Outside of Michael Becton, I think that's what his name is. They're starting offensive lineman for the Jets, who's a young rookie or second-year vet. But the running game isn't there. You don't know what type of offense they're going to do because Joe Flacco. You have this offense for Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was playing really well off the field, obviously not on the field. So then you have to adjust for Joe Flacco and his supposed what he can do and his limited skill sets. Later on in his career, he's going to be more fragile. So being able to adjust on the fly, you think about that. When you have onside kicks, the probability of these under 3 or 4% of getting that. Because you have to, for people that don't know, you have to let the ball go 10 yards unless the player, it just jumps out of their hands and boom, you can get it. I'm like, dude, and I saw that onside kick. I'm like, there's no way, no how. And somehow the Browns fumble the football again. The Browns can punt off. How do you let the Jets do an onside kick? And not only when they're 1-1 on the right now. That division is tough with Miami and all those teams. So, how does that happen? This is to me the oddest game, James, of the 2022 season. for at least for the first 2 weeks. Joe Flacco balled out. And again, Joe Flacco's going to have his hits, and that's why you need those backup quarterbacks. Why you can't just have a Gary Gerber or a Kyle Trask or what's his name got drafted in 2011, Blaine Gabbert, those type of guys. You need someone that has experience in the playoffs that can maybe give you that experience on or off the field as a quarterback, whether it's good experience or not. Experience is experience. But hats off to the Jets, man. I don't think – I mean, outside of a few homers like Ray Romano and a couple other people, like most people knew, defensive-wise, because you haven't heard from Quentin Williams in a while in that defense. You traded one of your you haven't had like a really good defense. You traded for C.J. Mosley 2 years ago. That didn't work out. Most people picked the Browns because of the defense. Browns won week 1. Didn't expect that, mind you. Based on how the Steelers played also. It's just the Browns being the Browns, man. I don't know, like, if you and I were to bet money on that the Browns are going to win this game with 2 minutes left, we would have lost. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, that was crazy. Again, maybe Browns are going to have games like this all year long, and when Watson comes back, if he does, we'll see what happens. Next game, though, Washington was at Detroit, and Washington got off to a hot start. They led 22-0, and at the half, then they kind of let the foot off the gas just a tad, but they didn't end up Detroit scoring up to 36-1 and held on, I should say, 36-27. It was one of those games that you felt good about if you're a Detroit fan, because you know, hey, we probably won't be as bad as Washington. We'll be good. And that's the feeling, I think, in Detroit, and Dan Campbell has tried to construct there with the Lions. Carson Wentz, he ended up getting sacked for a safety. He had 337 yards passing. He did have 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. He was sacked, though, 5 times. Jared Goff, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, but sacked 3 times. I'm sorry, not the Browns. The Lions did the job on Antonio Gibson on the running game. He only had 28 yards, 1 touchdown. The Lions didn't really get much from DeAndre Swift and Williams. I thought they were going to get more. In the air, Samuel and Thomas and Dodson all 3 had touchdowns for Washington. But St. Brown had 2 touchdowns in the air. Reynolds and Swift each had a touchdown for Detroit. So this was a good look, because there's some years the Lions would struggle with, especially the NFC East. And we'll see how the year goes more. But for the Lions to get the win, maybe, it's a step forward where they want to be. Let's see. The bad part, though, for me, we both picked Kansas City. We both picked Cleveland. Got that wrong. Now you picked Detroit. I picked Washington. And I regret that so much. But what did you think about Detroit's good game against Washington?
How about those freaking – I didn't. I tried to tell you. This is not just about Carson Wentz. This team, without Chase Young, with one of your other side defensive backs who's now on the sidelines, Ron Rivera, what's his name, the defensive coordinator, they are literally on the hot seat. Jack Del Rio. They're on the hot seat because these guys. Ron Rivera is one of the most overrated head coaches in the NFL. The most overrated head coach in the NFL right now. Ron Rivera and Cliff Kingsbury. That's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that later. But I told you couldn't trust this team. This wasn't just me hating Carson Wentz because he's a redhead. No, I'm a redhead too. But didn't I try to tell you? This is not just about Detroit winning this game and, oh my gosh, like this is overreact Monday or overreact Tuesday. A lot of times in Detroit, frankly, since they've been existed, fun hasn't been a word that has been in the Detroit Lions organization. Dan Campbell is bringing a different atmosphere, an atmosphere that you want to play for Detroit. You want to play for the team. Barry Sanders retired early. He didn't want to play for the team. He didn't have the energy of that fun. Megatron retired early. Injuries. Nearly had one of the best years in NFL history for a receiver. Matthew Stafford was traded. And now, all of a sudden, you have Jameson, or what's that running back? Jameson Williams? I think, or the former Packers running back. He's bringing energy into this team. You have Dan Campbell. You have Jay Williams, I think. All these guys are talking about each other. This is a great win for Detroit. I tried to tell everybody, Washington is a fraudulent team. This is not just about Carson. It's great. He has 7 touchdowns, 1 pick on the year. You have on fantasy. You're playing good. We're Gucci. We're good. But we're not talking about fantasy. Thank God I'm not playing fantasy. Like I'm saying. But for Washington, though, this is going to be tough, though, because McLaurin, I don't know what's what's going to move forward. You pay him a 3-year contract. Let's say Carson Wentz doesn't work out. This is going to be that season. I think anybody knew that game by game, you're going to look at Carson Wentz, where not just him being a starter for Washington, but for being a starter ever again in the National Football League. You're going to tell me that if they miss the playoffs, they're going to go after a quarterback in the 2022 draft, which is much better. But we'll talk about that later. Man, Detroit, I tried to tell y'all. How about the Lions? And it just shows that Dan Campbell, and I know we say this before about coaches and with organizations. We saw that with Stefanski in Cleveland. Clearly that wasn't the case because look what's happening there right now. But Dan Campbell is a guy that clearly, genuinely cares, not just about his job, but the players and the organization. And you're seeing that to an effect where you don't see fun, you don't see the power and energy, but now you're seeing that with Detroit. That does not mean that they're going to go 10-7, 11-6. Obviously, that's way too dramatic. But when you're looking at how much money they have next year, they can move on from Jared Goff. They can move on from other certain players. It's going to be a really good year for them next year. But I give Detroit full credit, man. I mean, am I kind of surprised that they won? Not necessarily, because I think they have an up-and-coming offensive line. They have decent running back by committee, not just one running back. Their defense it's kind of in the middle. It's like the lesser Kirk Cousins maybe or Phillip Rivers in terms of playoff wins. I think overall Detroit is really going to be a team to look at for in 2023 and beyond. Because now Packers traded Jordan Love. Sorry, my brain's all over the place football, but Jordan Love, he's going to be. Aaron Rodgers is there. Detroit is going to be Detroit and Chicago. After 2022 and 2023 are going to be the 2 best teams in that division.
Yeah. Next game was battle in the NFC South, and it was just a pair of field goals, and then the fourth quarter happened. That guy Thomas Brady threw a touchdown pass to make it 10-3. Suckup had a field goal later, 13-3, and then Mike Edwards had the dagger with the interception off of Jameis Winston. It's like he was playing for the Bucs again with all these picks. He made it 20-3, and then there was a couple of other picks by Jamil Dean that was really killer. Winston did add a touchdown late to make it 20-10, but the Buccaneers held on to win. Brady, didn't have the numbers, just the defense was awesome at the beginning of the game here. It wasn't until late when things started to get going. But Brady, only with 190 yards passing, 1 touchdown, he was sacked once. Jameis Winston, though, 236 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 6 times. Leonard Fournette on the ground, not as much. I think they keyed in on him. Only 65 yards rushing. Ingram had some good runs, first down run, especially late in the game. But he only had 60 yards rushing there. Mike Evans and Marcus Lattimore was kicked out. There was a little fracas there after a play that didn't go the Bucs' way. Evans, though, 3 receptions and 61 yards. Perriman had the lone catching touchdown there to give the Bucs the lead 10-3. In the air, Chris Olave had 80 yards, the rookie. Michael Thomas did catch a touchdown, 6 for 65 there. But the defense, though, coming up huge for the Bucs. For me, it kind of bailed out Tom Brady. But I want to know what you think about this game.
Obviously, I'm not gonna say it's all on Brady. That'd be absolutely delusional. I think this is where, like, this is the same year for Winston as it is Carson Wentz because before the season started, the Saints. I'm pretty sure we have more money in our bank account than the Saints had against the Gap. But that's neither here nor there. Absolutely, what negative 40, 50 plus $1 million trying to adjust contracts. This is shows like we know Jameis Winston has an arm. We know Jameis Winston can throw the football. But I say that with him, once he gets the ball rolling, he's hot. Nobody can stop him. One tiny hair the chinny chin chin mistake, and here goes the avalanche of interception, interception, interception. We've seen this since his rookie year. We saw this in college. This is not a shocker or a surprise. I don't remember if Michael Thomas playing this game. Alvin Kamara wasn't playing, and I knew this. I was like, "Ooh, Alvin Kamara is not playing." I get to a certain extent, I think he would have been a defining factor for the Saints to actually win that game. When I saw that Alvin Kamara is not playing, I'm like, okay, I think I need everybody that picked against the Bucks to write me a 30-page apologetic essay to doubting Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is not just, I'm not. This is not all on Brady. That Bucks defense is really, really good. But I want to talk about this because you and I were talking about it yesterday. We were texting about it. Clearly, there are things going off the field.
Mm-hmm.
We understand Brady has bad days. Everybody has bad days. So we're not here to pretend like Brady's gone 7 for 0 in the Super Bowl. That's unrealistic. But some of the mistakes he's made are not some of the mistakes he usually makes. Like we talk about not even verbal cues or body language speaks volumes. Brady's body language off the field speaks volumes. That clearly things are happening. It is none of our business, but I think she's basically saying, okay, you've had 7 rings. It's time to retire. It's time to do all this. Because mind you, Miami reached out to him in 2019, and so maybe this has been boiled over time. Supposedly they've been separated for a month, but we're not a drama. We don't care about that. That's none of our business unless Brady tells the media. But I'm telling you, things off the field affect a player on the field. This is not the type of mistakes that Brady made in this game he usually makes. You saw some of the stuff on Brady. You usually don't make that kind of throw. You know that's absolutely risky. You know some of the plays he was trying to roll out and throw it like Brady. You're not a mobile quarterback. You're not Michael Vick and Madden 04. You're not Lamar Jackson. You're not Drew Brees. You're not Russell Wilson. You're not all these former quarterbacks. Like, what are you doing? Just seeing his face, like when he went into the locker room, coming into the game with his bag, he looked like a guy like, oh, crap, I have to be here. So I may have read too much into it, but things off the field are clearly affecting. With that being said, I believe I have a video I'm trying to put up here because some people don't understand, regardless. Again, I want to say this one more time. Brady didn't win the game completely on his own. It was that defense did a lot. And if it wasn't for that defense, I mean, I think maybe the Bucs still had a chance, but I think it would have been tough. But how about Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr. with a touchdown when it matters? Because this goes back to that Rams Super Bowl. It was great. I wouldn't say it was a great win for the Bucs because defensive-wise, it was great. Offensive-wise, like Fournette is a phenomenal player. There were a couple of times where I'm like, why is Fournette on the sidelines? He had 100 yards last week. He's going to be your leading guy. A couple of guys you had last year are gone. Gio Bernard, 1-year deal. Le'Veon Bell, who you had a boxing match a while back. It's Adrian Peterson. Those guys are gone. Leonard Fournette is your number one guy. You can have or Kevin White or whatever his name is. Those guys be your solid number 2 or number 3. But your number one guy that could get you 850 plus yards a year or 120 carries is going to be Leonard Fournette. Why is he putting him on the sidelines? But for the Saints here, I think this shows that how not to build a team. 2016, 2017, you get all these defensive players, Breeze, he should have retired. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I think I kind of feel bad, maybe just a tiny bit, for the new Saints head coach because you're in, at least financially, the absolute worst situation in football right now. But like I said, the Bucs are winning the division. I don't care if Brady plays terrible, the defense will bail out. And that's not an excuse. And this is the thing also, talking about this, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have granted Tom Brady Wednesdays off for the season. And first of all, I know it seems like that I've been an apologetic for Brady. I don't care if you're Brady. I don't care if you're Breeze. I don't care if you're any quarterback in the league. you're taking off Wednesdays just because you want to? Who the fuck do you think you are? Like, that is absolutely unexcusable. That is, first of all, I don't care, like, if you're like, oh, Rich Brady, I don't care. You're a human being. You need to be playing. Clearly, if you're not 100% invested, that's fine. Deal with yourself off the field. But don't have your head so up your butt where your ego is like Tony Stark and like, oh, I can just do what I want. Because that's what, to a certain extent, where they have done. Now, if you get certain controls in terms of certain plays, okay, Brady knows what he's doing as a quarterback. But off the field, you're grunting him Wednesdays off. I wonder for what reason. I wonder if that's going to affect their play moving forward. But for the Saints, though, I mean, this is not that big of a deal, at least for week 2, because the Panthers lost, the Falcons lost, so I think they'll be fine. But I think for Winston here, dude, this is going to be tough. Because after this year, you could have guys like Winston, and Mariota, guys that, frankly, former Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, guys that were former top 3 picks that are, frankly, potentially on the free agent roster, man. It's tough, but don't doubt that Bucs defense. I'm telling you, though. Now, mind you, though, I will say, despite all this something apologetic, there are so many plays, though, in this game where I saw it. Tall balls, Brian Leftwich. Are you serious? Like, that's absolutely stupid. But good. I mean, it was a win for them. Congrats to James Dean for that game-saving interception. I give him full credit, but defense played well. I'm not going to say it was all on Brady because I know that we broadcasters like, oh, look at Brady. Did Brady play defense? Did Brady play tight end? Did Brady play receiver? No, he made the throws. Wouldn't matter. I'll give him credit for that. But defense-wise, congrats James Dean, all those guys, because they're going to be really good moving forward.
So I think we have a couple of comments here, and they're both from Casey King. He says, good afternoon, guys. And then he also thinks the Buccaneers will win the NFC South. Yeah, and I think we all thought that. It's just not going to be as it's not going to be as easy as years before.
It'll be easy though, man. I'll tell you.
And the fortunate thing, you got the prediction right. I didn't. I was drinking that New Orleans Kool-Aid for the last 2 years. Brady or not, the Saints have their number in the regular season.
And
that
right,
obviously is gone now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The next game in New Jersey. It was Carolina trying to bounce back. Giants were hosting the Panthers. They exchanged some field goals in the beginning, and then both teams had a 16-yard receiving touchdowns to make it 13-13. Then exchanged field goals, the last one by Cano late, a 56-yarder too, to give them the lead. Carolina tried to bounce back. Gave the Giants the ball back, and they needed just one first down. Now, what was unfortunate, the Panthers had 12 men on the field. At a time, you could have got the ball back and maybe drove to try to get a field goal. But their defense, with a costly penalty, and it was a man from New Jersey, too. So, I bet that didn't feel good. So the Giants escape. They go to 2-0. The Panthers 0-2. Mayfield, 145 yards passing, 1 touchdown. He was sacked twice. Daniel Jones, similar story, kind of 1 touchdown and 3 sacks. Christian McCaffrey, he didn't score a touchdown, but he had 102 yards rushing. So Saquon Barkley with 72 yards rushing. Jones with only 21. DJ Moore had the touchdown. Robbie Anderson with only 3 receptions, 32 yards receiving. Nothing much from Sterling Shepard, for the Giants. Bellinger had the only touchdown reception. But, John, it goes to show you those little mistakes at the end of the games really, really come to bite you, especially when you're a struggling team like the Panthers are and will be, and you have a shot to beat someone legitimately, and you shoot yourself in the foot. Those are those things that will haunt you at night, trying to sleep. And it's going to haunt the Panthers because, again, they could have had a shot to tie the game, possibly win it by 3. Instead, they lose by 3. It was just a field goal bonanza after the 2 touchdowns. What did you find interesting about this game?
Before I go, who did I pick? I'm trying to remember who I picked. Was it the Giants or
No, we both had the Giants.
Thank you. We both knew what we were doing. I'm done trying to say that Baker Mayfield could be a guy. This is not just about 2 games. This is about. I understand what the Browns didn't do, and it's not just about Baker what he is or isn't doing. It's also Matt Rule is on a potential hot seat for next season. You've had since 2019. This is your third season. After the 2019 season, you transferred from Baylor college football team after what happened before. You've had that defense, but you haven't been able to find that quarterback. You haven't been able to find the offensive line. You re-signed Christian McCaffrey a couple of years ago, injury prone because you overuse at the running back position. How many times do I have to tell you this, old man? I'm talking to people that are watching. Like, how do we not understand? Like, I've tried to say Baker this, Baker that. You've had Robbie Anderson. You had Christian McCaffrey. You have Evan Ingram. I'm not saying he's like a great I believe he plays for him. I'm not sure. You have some weapons there. Baker Mayfield, 144 yards, a touchdown, a QBR rating of 74.6. Like, I don't understand. Like, at some point, enough has to be enough because this season is going to be a verdict. I'm done trying to support Baker as a quarterback. This guy is not a starter in this league. This guy is a bum as a quarterback, and I'm sorry. You're in a division. Even if you played like decent, you missed the playoffs for 9-8. You're playing the same division as the Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're playing the same division where the Saints have a better defense than you. The Bucs have a better defense than you. The Saints, Bucs, Panthers, and the Falcons. They have a terrible. You have like probably the worst defense in that division. And so I can't be a defender of Baker Mayfield anymore. But I think with Giants, Daniel Jones didn't play well. Like, it's not like he got under 200 yards. It was a decent game manager. Saquon did his thing with 65 plus rushing yards. But they don't. Who's the starting receiver for the Giants? Like, what are you going to do about the defense? Like, I think there's just so many things where, like, people tend to overreact. I'm already looking at articles saying that, oh, could Dallas win the NFC East? Could Jets make the playoffs? And this is what drives me nuts about certain people in sports media. Overreaction. It hasn't even finished the second week of football. And we're already tripping balls like, oh my gosh, are the Jets going to make the playoffs? Joe Flacco for MVP. Dallas can win the NFC East. It's 2 weeks. Kansas City was 3-5 last year, and they won a playoff game. So let's not all of a sudden the Buccaneers in 2020. They didn't start off that hot. They were 11-5, won the Super Bowl. So we tend in the first two. The Airman seed. Someone that said this on First Things First a couple years ago. We can't just keep crowning people after 2 to 3 weeks. This isn't Madden where you can adjust ratings for certain players. But no, I give him credit. You won this game. I think Joe Judge, or is it Joe Judge or whoever their current head coach is, Matt. I can't remember his name at the moment. Obviously, last week was a really good win. I saw like that necklace that you had, but I mean, I give him full credit. You won 2 games. Washington lost. Dallas is winning, but the other team, y'all, it's just it sucks. But I for Baker Mayfield, I think he's done as a starter in this league. I'm not trying to sound like Colin Coward. He's the worst. He's the worst quarterback. He's a bust of the first round, first overall pick. But the Giants, I give you all full credit. It's just like the first 4 to 5 games is going to be their Super Bowl.
I have a feeling both teams are going to be in the draft looking for quarterbacks, and it should be a good quarterback class coming in. So Carolina and the Giants both will be looking for it. Some breaking news just coming in, and John, you're the one that gave me it. William Gay Jr., the linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, just suspended without pay for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. He'll be eligible to return on October 17th, but it's kind of a big deal just because their defense is limited. You know, they do have Dunlap, but that's when those rookie defensive players, especially that linebacker for Kansas City, will definitely have to step up a little more now and take control of that linebacking corp along with Carlos Dunlap. We saw the defense. Obviously, that's always been the Achilles heel for the Chiefs. The offense is, God mode. But defensively, they're far behind, and this makes them just a little bit. But it's only 4 games. What do you think about this news of Willie Gay Jr. Being suspended 4 games?
You know, I have to look at the ACOS. I'm looking at my phone. I think it's a big deal because the Broncos won, the Chargers just lost, the Raiders lost. But mind you, the Raiders right now are only 2 games behind for first place after only week 2. So if those 2 games, look at it, that division 2-0, 1-1, 1-1, 0-2. That already, if it's that close in only the first 2 weeks, and one of your defensive players is out for 4 weeks, I'm not saying it's like Marshawn Lynch being out for Seattle during the Legion Boom. I'm not saying it's like a Bobby Wagner being out for Seattle during the Legion Boom. But when you have guys like that can play ball, especially in the ACOS I'm looking at right here, that's going to matter. Because now it doesn't change your entire game plan. But what if he was the guy that – it would be like if a certain player, if I can't remember the team at the moment, but it's going to matter. Because now, like, let's say you have your rookie defensive end, I can't pronounce his name. You have the weapons. I think they'll be fine, but I think it just shows, like, what are you doing? And this is where I think I have a problem with the rule because it's so vague, James. Well, we talked about this before where the NFL I was talking about a youth leader here, and he's like, the problem with the NFL's personal conduct policy is that almost everything that a player does falls under that one policy. So that's the part that I don't understand. Like, what did he actually do? Because just saying he violated the personal conduct policy is super vague. I feel like if I mouthed out to my boss at work, I violated this personal conduct policy, and then someone who was 2 minutes late violated the personal conduct policy. So that's where it's like that rule is super vague. You need to be a lot more clear. But dude, you got it. This is gonna matter because you're in the AFC West. Let's say they achieve. Let's say moving forward, at least for the next 3 to 4 games. Let's say the Chiefs play
the Colts, Bucks, Raiders, and Bills. The next 4.
So the next 2 games, you could potentially, maybe the Raiders. You could obviously you beat the Colts, so you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But Tampa Bay, if you can't beat Tampa Bay, like I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not saying it's like losing when they had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the 2020 draft, but I don't get it. Like, what are you doing? That's the part like I will understand. We gotta do better, man. But it's unfortunate for them. I think they'll be fine. It's not the end of the world, but I think he's not a what's the word? It would be like it's not like if the Raiders were missing Charles Woodson. It's not like if the Niners were missing Jerry Rice. I'm not no disrespect to him. I think he's a really good player, but I think just for the defense all around, you need every single player for them to come together and play well. And one of them's that for 4 games, you could see key plays on 2nd and 3rd down that are really going to affect their defensive play. But I think they'll be fine, but just be watching because you never know.
Okay, so let's get back to the Sunday games. New England, who we thought was just written off a bit, they were facing the Steelers, who had a win on week 1. Exchanged field goals at the beginning. Then New England jumped ahead, made it 17-6. I know Trubisky had a touchdown, but the Patriots ended up holding on 17-14. And I think that was kind of a shocker because we didn't know how Matt Jones was going to respond after week 1. He had 252 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He wasn't sacked. But Mitchell Trubisky, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and he was sacked 3 times. And already I can hear the calls for Kenny Pickett. Harris had a rushing touchdown for New England. The other Harris on the other side, Najee for Pittsburgh, he only had 49 yards rushing. He didn't get much. Now, Nelson Aguilar, he had a great day. 6 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Jacoby Myers had 95 yards rushing. And that was really good to see. The thing for the Steelers now with their receiving core, Washington's gone. So Dante Johnson was there with only 57 yards receiving, and Harris was nothing. Claypool, nothing really. Freiermuth was the only one who had the touchdown, the tight end. It seems like they're going to him a lot, or Trubisky is. But anyway, the the Patriots escaped with the win from Pittsburgh. I think it was more on Pittsburgh. Their defense did what they could without Watt, but still their offense not as in sync. And I wonder when they'll make the quarterback change. Maybe after week 4. That's what I'm guessing. That's what I thought anyway. Because when you look at Trubisky, he's really someone you really can't depend on. And then to put up numbers as well. I don't think that can be the case. So what did you think about New England winning, holding on, I should say, in Pittsburgh?
This is more negative about Pittsburgh than is positive about New England because Pittsburgh scored 3 points in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm all about taking your time with the rookie quarterback at the same time, guys get better. Richard Trubisky had 160 yards, a touchdown to pick. I'm not saying he's a guy. He's made some throws that are really, really good. But I think at some point with not just with the – no, I'm not talking about this game. I'm talking about like overall his football career, like a few throws in there. I get the familiarity with Kenny Pickett, like being at Pittsburgh. You've been able to at the same practice. It feels like there's that same kind of atmosphere. So you know Mike Tomlin, you know some of the players in the organization on or off the field. But I think looking at this though, in the first half, I mean, it was 10-3 at halftime. You scored 17-6 at the end of the third quarter. In terms of altogether from the first 3 quarters, 17-6. New England scored nothing in the fourth quarter. And it would be, like New England, we wrote them off. No, we didn't just write them off for the whole season. We're talking about Bill Belichick. We're not talking about New England as a whole team. We're talking about Bill Belichick. You can't draft. Like, I don't understand. It's just like, he just doesn't want – it'd be like, let's say, JJ, you and I are a GM or we own, let's say, the Jets. We're owning the Jets. And there's a random receiver from Wisconsin or a star player like Jefferson or the other guys. And we picked this random guy from Wisconsin. That's in terms of that. That's what Bill Belichick is doing. This guy is a buffoon. This guy is a clown. We know his all-time legacy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this season, 17 points. You know, this is only the first 2 weeks. I will talk about this game, but you know who I'm talking about. A certain quarterback in that division make Mac Jones look like a 5th-round pick. A certain quarterback in that AFC East. And Pittsburgh here, like I get like you don't want to rush, you want to make sure he's ready, but at the same time, it's like I guarantee you he's been watching a bunch of practices. I guarantee you he's been working out with a bunch of Steelers players. It's in the same facility. So it's like there's a lot of familiarity, so maybe that can help him a lot more. Maybe they did some off like practices with Juju, even though you're at Pittsburgh. Maybe some I don't know. I know Juju's gone, but like in terms of players that have been in that organization, in that front office. Right, looking at here, like their best receiver is 6 7 57 yards, Dante Johnson. Like you didn't need to pay Juju, you didn't need to pay Claypool because I don't know how the Steelers are doing it. But no matter who they draft, whether it's in the 80th round, 300,000th overall, they can develop a receiver. But I think for team overall, I mean, Mac Jones, what like I said, 21-35, 252. Like if how the Dolphins are playing in the first 2 games is a small indication moving forward. Matt Jones has to play a lot better. But at the same time, looking at it from a front office perspective as a fan, when you see how they failed to get the players that they did, how they are not drafting the right guys, you let go of Judon, he came back, and then another guy, he came back. What I don't understand is, like, what is their mindset? Are we still living in the golden days? Are we still living in the days of, oh yeah, I love renting out Blockbuster, but now I have streaming, but I prefer, like, it's like at some point you have to move on mentally. And the Patriots, I don't think Belichick has moved on from Brady because, like, these decisions, though, even with Brady, you're able to trade for guys in free agency or during the season and make some big moves. They're not doing that. Remember, their quarterback for the 2020 season potentially was going to be I don't want to say Peter. I can't remember his name at the moment. He was a really average quarterback who's been on 2 or 3 teams since. But the Steelers, I think they'll be fine. Like, I think what some people may assume because they're so ready for Trubisky to go on the sidelines and Kenny Pickett to get on the field, they're assuming, it's going to light it up. It's going to be like what Baker did in 2018. They went 5-6 wins, and they beat the Jets. And obviously that's not one, but, like, they beat teams. It's not going to be like that. But I think at some point, like I said, I agree, James. Week 4, week 5, you're going to have to do something. Because if you have other teams in that division with The Browns, the Ravens, yes, they didn't win week 2, but they're going to figure it out. Mitchell Trubisky, Lamar Jackson, Jacoby Brissett, Joe Burrow. You're going to have to put, sooner or later, I think, especially in that division, in that history, you're going to have to put Kenny Pickett to the fire. But for the Patriots, man, they played like crap. I'm sorry, congrats on the win. It wasn't a good win, but you won.
Next game was a AFC South matchup. I was going to say battle, but that didn't turn out to be. Jacksonville had their foot on the Colts' neck all night, all day long. I mean, it was their time. It was their team. You know, they did well enough. They win 24-0. They shut out the Colts. Something about the Colts in Jacksonville, they're scarred to be there. They're just scarred so much. And it doesn't matter who is quarterback. You know, Carson Wentz was let go just because he lost that last game and his poor play down the stretch. You bring Matt Ryan in, and I was wrong. I thought, hey, they're going to turn that tide. I know they're only 0-2, but it's not a good look when you lose to the Jaguars. I know it's on the road as well, but then you get shut out, and in the fashion that you did. Matt Ryan only 195 yards passing, no touchdowns, 3 picks, and he was sacked 5 times. Trevor Lawrence, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, 235 yards passing. Now, both teams didn't run well, and it was Robinson for the Jaguars scored a touchdown. But Jonathan Taylor, and you mentioned this, only 9 carries, 54 yards. He should have got more, but I think as they got behind even more, they had to go to the air more, and just nothing was working out after that. Nothing much in the air there, so Dolan only had 5 receptions, 79 yards. The second best was Hines, their backup running back with receiving. With the Jaguars, Kirk earned his money. He had 2 touchdowns there. Ingram, 7 for 46. You know, Jaguars just got the job done, and credit to them. But again, I think this was more on the Colts coming out as a disappointment than Jacksonville having that home crowd opening day there with you, loud and proud. It was really awesome to see. Now, we both picked Pittsburgh, and they lost. But you had it right here. Jacksonville, you picked. I had Indy. So what did you think about the demolishing of the Colts by the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday?
What?
I am. I have to.
What? How in Al Gore's internet do you not score a freaking field goal? Are you kidding? Jonathan Taylor, you can use as a receiving back. 9 carries. Even if you knew you were going to get decimated. Look at what happened with what was the team that came close but lost by 2 touchdowns last night? They had a chance to come back. It was the Bears. They came back, even though they were down like less than 10 minutes, they had a chance to. They were still running the ball with Kerber and all those guys. They at least were trying. The Colts didn't give a flying flapjack with anything. 24-0. Are you stupid? Like, I try to tell people, all Matt Ryan is Kirk Cousins with a deeper playoff experience. What's up, James?
No, I was saying I was wrong on Matt Ryan. Even after week 2, doesn't matter what team he's on, the team will be bad with him on it.
People could say, like, oh, it's just week 2. And that's fine if you lost against a good team that could be a Super Bowl contender. You lost against the freaking Jacksonville. The Colts, if I remember, have not beat Jacksonville since a year or two after Saxonville.
Mm-hmm.
Gardner Minshew, Gabbert, so many
Bortles.
others. Blake Bortles. Like, are you freaking serious? This is a guy that's going to be a Super Bowl contender, and you can't score a field goal. You're telling me the Jaguars defense consistently is better than the Colts defense? No. So, like, when you look at the Jaguars, Doug Peterson obviously is a better head coach than Frank Reich. He won a Super Bowl. And this is the thing with the Colts. It's so weird. Like, we have teams that can get almost every other position, but there's one player they still haven't been able to get. The Colts built that defense. They built their young receiver core under 25 years old. So next 10, 12 years, they could be your guy. You got a great running back out of Wisconsin. Mind you, though, 9 carries after this year. You only have 2 more seasons with him until either you give him a new contract or he goes in free agency or he's an unrestricted free agent in 2025. So what I don't understand is how in these small games you gotta be using him more, even if you lose. Matt Ryan, seriously, 3 interceptions. Matt Ryan is a fraud. Matt Ryan is not an NFL quarterback. I'm not talking about like I'm just talking about Matt Ryan as a quarterback. This is the guy you can take Matt Ryan out of Atlanta. You can't take the Atlanta out of Matt Ryan. I would say this every single time the Colts lose. The Colts went 0-3 at the start of the season and lost against Jackson. Carson Wentz, we knew, wasn't the guy. He had average gains. They didn't need him to throw for 150 to 200 yards. They needed to throw for 350 almost every single game with that young receiver core, with drafting Jonathan Taylor, with having that defense back. Think about it. The Colts made a blockbuster trade in 2020 with DeForest Buckner not even a year after Andrew Luck retired. So they've had the whole core together, except the quarterback's been missing. Jacoby Brissett. You've had Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and now Matt Ryan. None of these quarterbacks starting have won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Wentz won it sitting on the sidelines watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and selfie time, participation trophy, yes. Like, are you serious? Like, I don't get it. Like, how, like, what outside, like, I get, like, oh, Matt Ryan, he's had playoff experience, he went to a Super Bowl. But, bro, like, it's just 328 right now. I just want to make sure I'm reading the opposite kid. It's 409.
I was going to say.
No, I'm not surprised that they lost, but I think anybody is 100% surprised. 0 points. I'm looking for Trevor Lawrence before I go back to you. Man, it's tough. Looking at Trevor Lawrence, if I can, my phone will pull. All right. Trevor Lawrence didn't necessarily play that great either, but that defense played good. 235 touchdowns, no picks. That's maybe all that you need to do. Let your defense do the job, like Doug Peterson, get the game plan. Essentially, Houston is in shambles. Tennessee lost against New York in Week 1. The Jaguars they're the team, right? It's any team's division. This is the NFC East, least of the AFC. I think we all predicted about before the season started. But I think at some point, mostly my last point, people need to come to terms with what Matt Ryan is. He's not a scrub. He's not elite. He's not great. And I think at some point, the narrative's already been there. And he's not a top 5. He's not a top 10. He's not a top 12 or top 15 quarterback. How does Trevor Lawrence play better than you? They overpaid Christian Kirk. Like, are you serious? Like, the Colts, Matt Ryan needs to just retire, go to the Holiday Inn, and watch the Golden Girls, because clearly you're past your prime.
I think we can officially say Frank Wright is on the hot seat. Mm-hmm. Just the first coach out there, I would say. The next game was the opposites of each other in the first half and the second half. Miami at Baltimore. Baltimore led 28-7 at the half. He thought it was over. Little by little, Tua Tagovailoa threw for 6 touchdowns, unbelievably. Led a comeback. Third quarter, they were down 34-14 were the Dolphins. And you thought, it was over. But Tua, little by little, he spread the ball around a lot. And to everyone almost on the Dolphin offense. It was pretty awesome to see. The running game was awesome. Everything was good. 5:27, they tied at 35 with a pass to Hill for 60 yards. And it was amazing to see the Raven defense let Hill and Waddle get open as much as they did. It was not Raven-like, and I think they've been like that the last 2 or 3 years where their mainstay was their defense, but not anymore. Then later on, the Justin Tucker hit a 51-yard field goal, 2:23 to go, plenty of time left. And then Tua ended up passing to Waddle, who was wide open for a touchdown. 19 seconds left. Baltimore couldn't do anything else with that. So Miami comes up with the improbable win, 42-38. I tell you, that was an amazing effort by Tua. Lamar Jackson, though, you got to feel for him. He did all he could, and he had great numbers. But their defense let him down. And you saw the moves that they made to get better in the offseason defensively, but it seems like nothing has changed. Quickly, Tua's numbers, 469 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks and 1 sack. I can't believe I'm saying over 400 yards and more than 4 touchdowns for Tua. That's just unbelievable to me. Lamar Jackson, though, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, no sacks, no picks. Easy win, right? On the ground, nothing much for Miami. Mostert had 51 yards on 11 carries, and then Edmonds had 33. Edmonds did have an important 28-yard run, though. Lamar Jackson on the ground rushing, he led him with 9 carries for 119 yards and 1 touchdown rushing. So he did pretty much everything right there. Receiving wide, Rashad Bateman, 4 receptions, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Mark Andrews, 9 receptions, 104 yards, and 1 touchdown. So that was great to see. All the things hit on offense. Rushing, Lamar is going to have that. Receiving, Andrews is going to be there. But good for Bateman to be there. But for the first time, I believe, let me get this right, Tyreek Hill and Waddle both had, for the first time in NFL history, a pair of guys who had at least 10 receptions, 150 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns in the same game. I couldn't believe that hasn't happened before, honestly. But I guess I'm thinking like Jerry Rice, but it was always, a nobody after. All the great receivers, with the Lions, but then, nobody else. But Hill and Waddle both had 11 receptions. Hill had 190 yards. Waddle had 171 yards, both with 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 60 and 1 for 59 for Waddle. And I just thought that was amazing. Gesicki also had a touchdown, and then Cookcraft also had a 2-yard touchdown as well receiving. So just an amazing game. It didn't start out that way, but the comeback by the Dolphins, again, Justin Tucker, best kicker in the game, responded. And then Tua, what we all wanted to see. We didn't want to see him, fail. Mm-hmm. We wanted to see him do great. I was just a hater because someone else absolutely loved him and just would never think different about him. I just got sick of that crap. And I think you know who I'm talking about. 2 of this, 2 of that. He's the best thing. Alabama, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Finally, we have a game where it's like, hey, he finally did something to put his mark on. I mean, week 1, that was awesome. Week 2, that's even better. It was so amazing to see, man. What did you think about this thriller in Baltimore?
There are going to be probably people that are like, the Tua fans, we were right, you were wrong. Bro, it is week 2. You remember when we talked about first show, Matt Flynn, who had the really good 45 touchdown game, and then he disappeared. I'm not saying Tua is Matt Flynn for this game. Who did we pick now? I just want to make sure if I was wrong or right.
Who was it?
Who did I pick in this game?
Oh, you had you had Miami. I had Baltimore.
Oh my God!
I forgot all about that too.
Here's the thing: it's only because if you were to compare a current defense or a quarterback to a defense, comparing them. The Ravens' defense is a Kirk Cousins of defense. That used to be their staple. They're giving up a lot of yards. They're making some plays here and there, but they're giving up a lot. Tua nearly tied Peyton Manning's single season touchdown in game record of all time. Remember, folks, Tyreek Hill was a 6th-round pick. Waddle was a 1st-round pick. I mean, to see these guys, it's awesome. Obviously, the running game wasn't here or there, but they don't need to get a couple plays here and there. I think my still like with Tua is not necessarily the numbers. Obviously, the numbers are like being nearly score 40 points in fantasy football for people. Is I think the way he throws the football is like it's unable to always create that deep pass like Mahomes does to Hill. So I think that may take some effect this season. But we're talking about this specific for this game only. This one game only. I was wrong about Tua, and I was criticizing Tua because I didn't see anything in him from his rookie year or last year. This guy could be the guy. There's no sample size at all. This guy's not going to be successful. And like you said, Jans, I hope I'm wrong. But the fact is there's only 32 NFL teams, and at some point certain guys are just going to be a bust. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, so many other guys. For this game, I was wrong about Tua. 6 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson. I get where some people pay the man or Lamar's not getting paid because he's this or something is this or whatever. The Ravens are the Falcons of decision-making for the front office. Because you're living in the past. Your defense, like you said, your defense used to be their thing. Their defense. But the last 2 years with Lamar Jackson getting the ball, running it too much, running for 9-10 carries a game, which is not healthy for a running back. Trying to get him going, you got outplayed by Tua by almost 170 yards. This is Tua's stable game in the NFL. 3rd year in the league, which people doubt him, rightfully so. You got outplayed by Tua. I'm not putting this all on Lamar Jackson, but yet again, the Ravens front office is the Falcons and Kirk Cousins of decision making. You trade Hollywood Brown to where you couldn't get a player in return. So therefore, you got that 1st-round pick. You got a rookie guy who's unproven. It's not like Amari St. Brown with the Lions. He's proven. He's a Pro Bowl. He's a future guy that could be a future top receiver in the league. But he has no one to throw to. Your J.K. Dobbins is out. Gus Edwards is not there. Your defense is just – I don't know what's going on. But like even with the Joe Flacco days, there's defense early on with Lamar Jackson. There's their defense. And now all of a sudden you're starting to see maybe some plays here and there with the Browns or other teams outside of that division. Baltimore, are you serious? You lost against Miami. With New England playing the way they played, at least for the first 2 weeks. That's it. Because I don't want people to start, we're not going to be like overreacting to see this. See, I told you. Who was winning MVP? He's going to the Super Bowl. At least for the first 2 weeks, Miami is the Patriots are the 3rd or 4th worst team. No, for this week, the Patriots are the worst team in the AFC East. 17-14, barely 200 yards. Tua had 6 touchdowns. That's more than Mac Jones has had all year. That was 2 games. Tua has had a better game, a single season game, in one game than Mac Jones has had. Again, it's just one game I understand, and that's what I'm saying. Let's not overreact. But you're looking at the Dolphins, the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets. The Jets won in overtime, or they're going to convert to make it overtime, but they won in regular contention. The Dolphins bought us. Right now, it's really the Bills, Dolphins, I would say Jets and Patriots for right now. Because of how the Jets won, you got the onside kick. You nearly took it to overtime, but you won in 4 quarters instead of taking 5 or 6. So at least for this week, overall, we know the Jets are going to be the worst team in that division. We know that. Zach Wilson's out for the next couple weeks. But for the first 2 weeks, the Patriots, in my opinion, are the worst team in that division. You get out. Joe Flacco plays better than Mac Jones. Tua plays better than Mac Jones. Josh Allen plays better than Mac Jones. So that being said, there's only 4 teams per division. Sorry, Mac Jones is the worst quarterback, at least for the first 2 weeks in the AFC East. And I know it's going to trigger some people, but guess what? You can go be a part of the DC universe, put on the cape, and be Superman.
You know, and the one thing that Tua is going to like with Tyreek Hill, and you saw this with Mahomes, Sometimes he only needs to throw like a 5-yard pass to Hill and let Hill do the rest with some blocking and speed. So Tua doesn't need to throw the ball 30 yards to Tyreek Hill.
Exactly.
Sometimes it'll just be those situations where if you have the right blocking on a wide receiver screen, he'll be gone. So it's awesome to see, honestly. The next game was the start of the afternoon games. Out in Inglewood, near the LAX airport, the Rams were hosting the Falcons. The Falcons were trying to bounce back from choking up the game to the Saints. The Rams are trying to bounce back from the demolishing that the Bills gave them. Now, in the first half, it looked really well. The Rams are up 21-3. Everything was great again. At 9:28 mark, they scored another touchdown, did the Rams. Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. I mean, they go together so well. 28-3. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? This time the Rams led by 28.
Exactly.
Then something shocking happened. After a touchdown, a field goal, the Falcons started to make it a game, and I'm tweeting out like, why is this a game? Why is this? Marcus Mariota shouldn't be doing this well. Threw a couple of one touchdown. Atlanta blocked a field goal to make it 31-25, and they had a chance to make it closer. There was even a safety late just to run off some clock by the Rams, which was kind of smart. The Rams did end up holding on 31-27, but kind of a little shock, and maybe there's a little, hole in the boat, some water coming into the Rams, sailing. So maybe that's the case. So Mariota, 96 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. It was sacked 3 times. Matthew Stafford, 272 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked once and 2 picks. And it seems like a thing with Stafford. Even though he can throw for the touchdowns, the interceptions are there, unfortunately. Cordell Patterson only had 41 yards rushing for the Falcons. I think the Rams really keyed in on that. He's that one guy, especially on fantasy, you want and see what he does because he can run and catch. Henderson had a rushing touchdown. Cooper Kupp had 108 yards receiving, 11 receptions, 2 touchdowns. And Allen Robinson, he got one more catch than last week. 4 receptions, 53 yards, 1 touchdown. It's amazing when you find someone and you see what he can do. Drake London, the USC rookie, 8 receptions, 86 yards, 1 touchdown. There was another touchdown as well late. But the defense for the Rams, let me look this up real quick. So Ramsey had an interception late as well as Durant. He was the rookie, remember. For the sacks, Wagner got in there for the Rams. Hollins had a big one, and then Durant also added a sack. So Durant there made his impact even as a rookie in this game, and that's what you want to see with the Rams as, they try to mortgage the future by trading those draft picks away, but you're hoping some of those late picks come around and do well for you as you're trying to win now like they did last year. So what was your impression of that Atlanta failed comeback in LA yesterday?
The Falcons can't catch a break. You're up 28-3, you lose. You're down 28-3, you lose. And it's both ways. It's called the double Atlanta. I just make it up over lane. Like, they have a chance to win the football game, and Marcus Mariota throws a pick in the end zone to Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey didn't block me. I'm not saying he saw my tweet, but he did play better. So I'll take credit for that. I'll take 20 grand for your game check. I'll take it. Not a problem. No sweat, no miss. But Matthew Stafford's elbow is in this game, but moving forward, you could say maybe week 8, week 12, or 13, at some point in between there, Matthew Stafford's elbow is going to negatively affect their season. Like I said, the Super Bowl hangover, I don't completely buy. Yes, you can make all the right decisions, but if injuries happen, that's out of your control. You're not doing anything wrong, But I think Matthew Stafford's elbow is still hurting him. He missed a lot of training camp. And you saw a lot of players either not talking training camp and missing training camp. You've seen a lot of injuries already, especially in the NFC, in this current division we're talking about. You've seen guys get injured for a couple of games. You see guys like get suspended. I say on the field and off the field chemistry is really important, and we're starting to see it with some teams. But a lack of tackling and injuries. I mean, think about it, like his elbow. Like I say this again, I'm not an expert of anything else in football. But like when he throws it like that, sooner or later, if a defensive end, Aaron Donald type like player hits him right as he's trying to throw, he goes back and his leg goes back, you're screwed. You don't have a backup. I'm not saying he's gonna have a season-ending injury, but I think at some point it wasn't a great win for the Rams. Like you said, it shouldn't have been a game. They should have blown it just like the Falcons did the Super Bowl against New England in 2017, Super Bowl 51. His elbow, to me, is still a concern. Some people can look past that. But I'm telling you, James, between week 8 and week 15, there could be something that could happen where his elbow is going to be a big factor and it blows game. James, like you said, he had 2 interceptions. Matthew Stafford had 3 to 4 picks in week 1. Clearly, he has as many interceptions in the first 2 weeks as Tua did touchdowns in one game. So what is that telling you? His elbow does matter. They didn't have a choice but to start him. But then here goes the people. Oh, the Super Bowl hangover. Oh my gosh. But I hope Matthew Stafford does get better. But I think his elbow is definitely effective. And you're right. You use all the receivers that you trade for it, and they can do something. Allen Robinson. He played with Blake Bortles. He played with Trubisky. He played with Foles. He played with Dalton the Redhead, who's not even in the league right now. He's with the Saints. Sorry. Honestly, it was a good win there. But for the Falcons, you think that Mariota is better than Desmond Ridder? I'm not saying Desmond Ridder is a quarterback in this league. We don't know. We have no film. But I think Marcus Mariota wasn't a bad decision. But we know he's not a starter in this league. We know he was done being a starter after Tennessee, and he got replaced by Ryan Tannehill. But it's the Falcons. Like, I don't know if it's eternally. I don't know if it's emotionally. I don't know if you just disband the team altogether and have 31 teams, AFC and NFC, and just kind of maybe do like a tiebreaker type of thing for 31 teams. Because the Falcons are, like, I don't understand it. Grady Jarrett is still on that defense. That team defensive-wise should have been disbanded after 2017, 2018. 5-11, 5-11, or 6-10. Are you serious? That team is still together? That makes no sense. If you're in the river of denial, you deserve to lose. Terrell is still there. Grady Jarrett is still there. Kyle Pitts, why would you draft Kyle Pitts? Why would you draft Drake London? Why would you continue to have Cordell Patterson if you don't have an answer for the quarterback position? Yes, you can say, oh, next year. Well, great. They had Matt Ryan. How did that work out? Nothing. You went to a Super Bowl and you lost. You see Matt Ryan in Indianapolis. And so, I mean, it's kind of funny because the Falcons blow a 28-3 lead, or they blow a 28-3 score 2 times. And so it just proves that. I'm sorry, but the Falcons, I don't, James, like, what do you think? Like, what is it? Why do the Falcons, no matter who their quarterback is, man, they keep blowing games? I just don't understand it. I've never seen this in my lifetime in football.
I think for years they've been trying to find the answer. They had Michael Vick, and who knows how that could have gone if he didn't get in the trouble he did. I think that was probably their only shot. And then, they had that magical year, and they go to the Super Bowl twice, but once without a real quarterback, one with Matt Ryan, and then the Patriots, of course, did what they did. I know they've had a lot of coaching changes too. Well, after White left, or Smith left, I should say, but they have a lot of holes to fill as well. I mean, you don't throw to Kyle Pitts. I was hoping he would be more of an offensive player, but maybe they'll find something with the rookie quarterback whenever his time is ready. But you also have to build through the draft. No one's going to go there in free agency.
Yeah.
That's the bad part, is that everything they do, it's going to be very tough to get better.
Here's the thing, though, for the Falcons is that even like with their teams or anything else. Think about it. When Jalen Ramsey got that interception, I believe it was towards the middle of the end zone. Why didn't you have a Kyle Pitts or another player with him blocking or containing Ramsey? So you leave a Drake London or Cordell Patterson to go out the middle or another guy. Why did you game plan against that? That's what I don't understand. It's like Jalen Ramsey was a receiver for the Falcons. He was wide open. Nobody was trying to contain him. Just because Ramsey failed in week 1 does not contain how great he is as a corner. I don't understand that offensive game plan. Even with their players, they succeed, and when they're trying to rebuild, they can't. Why aren't you containing Ramsey? I'm not saying it's going to work, but at least try to contain him with a pass or your back or whoever your back at tight end is something. But Jalen Ramsey, no receiver, no guy was trying to block it. So if you distract him with 2 to 3 of your players, that leaves Cordell. I'm not saying it's guaranteed because nothing's guaranteed football. They Cordell Patterson or Drake London or Marcus Mariota to get into the end zone. But yet they fail to do that, and they try to pass. Pete Carroll, this is called the Pete Carroll rule. You do not pass towards the goal line. And what do the Falcons do? Jalen Ramsey gets an interception.
Next game was up in Northern California. I knew a couple people who were there. Seattle and San Francisco played each other. San Francisco, of course, in dry weather. Well, rain did come later in the game, but Seattle coming off their Super Bowl win. This was pretty much the 49ers game all the way through. They win 27-7. The unfortunate part, or however San Francisco fans want to, think about it, Trey Lance, broken ankle. He'll be out for the rest of the season. He's had surgery or is going to have surgery on it already. But Jimmy Garoppolo, luckily they didn't trade him, and nobody wanted him anyway. And now everybody loves him with the Niners. After nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted him. And all of a sudden, boom, everybody loves him again. It's amazing how fans are, how spoiled fans can be. And you see that with the 49ers. Just unbelievably the way things have gone. But with the Niners, you don't feel like their season is over. But when you lose Elijah Mitchell last week, you lose Trey Lance, who was supposed to be your savior. It seems kind of weird. But let me go through the stats real quick. Geno Smith with 197 yards passing, no touchdown, 1 pick, and 2 sacks. Now that looked like Geno, not like last Monday. Trey Lance, before he left, he was 2 for 3, 30 yards passing, no touchdowns, picks, or sacks. Then Jimmy G came in, just managed the game pretty much. 154 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks. He was sacked once. On the ground, the Seahawks, Penny didn't do much. Walker, the third, didn't do much either. Homer, not much at all. On the ground for the Niners, it was Jeff Wilson Jr., who had 84 yards rushing. Ruffalo and Jusic both had a touchdown rushing from within the 5. Receiving wise, Lockett, 9 receptions for 107 yards. Metcalf, 4 for 35. It just seems like Metcalf isn't really, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's doing much. And that was even last year with Wilson. For the Niners, Brandon Ayuk had the receiving yards, most 63 yards. Dooley had the lone receiving touchdown, 38-yarder. The defense there for the Niners, got to mention them. They had the 2 picks, Ward and Gibson Sr. Bosa had 2 sacks on the day on Smith. So this was definitely a good win for the Niners, but it comes at a cost. So what did you think about that whole situation there in Santa Clara yesterday?
This is called the Kardashian effect with the San Francisco 49ers and their fans. One week you're good with Kanye, and the next week you're not. It's up and down, up and down. We hate Trey Lance. Trade him. We don't need him here. We need Trey Lance. Part of that is, yes, nobody wanted Trey Lance, but also the organization doesn't feel any confidence in Trey Lance. Like we said this before, I believe on the show and the shows before, maybe off the air. actions speak louder than words. You traded 3 first-round picks for a guy who only had 13 games in college, and still he isn't starting the rest of the season before this injury. That tells me you have no confidence in Trey Lance. You pay Debo. You got was it Mitchell? Whatever is Elijah Mitchell? I think was it the backup. He played really well. You have the defense. It's like, are you serious? Like, Kyle Shanahan type of quarterback is not Trey Lance. Like, we saw this before. Why do you think Kirk Cousins had 4,000 plus yards every single season in Washington? That's his type of quarterback, not guys that would be like a Lamar Jackson type of guy. Guys are like Kirk Cousins or Rivers or Breeze, maybe Wilson without his mobility, where they can be mobile when they want to, but they're more pocket passers. Trey Lance is not the type of quarterback that Shanahan wants to play with, but I feel really bad for Lance because even though I don't think he'll ever succeed in this league, I want to see him succeed. Not because I'm a fan, because we want to be wrong. But again, this just goes to show that this is high off. This is in the moment energy for Jimmy G and the Niners. Played really well, came back, he got injured. You play well. You threw a touchdown pass a couple plays after. You can't tell me that you were trying to mentor Trey Lance. There's no way. Then after they said it feels really good, meaning you still wanted to be there. You didn't want to go, and I have no problem with that. But for Trey Lance, so man, I think he just had surgery, as I just saw. Just had surgery. So I wish him the best, but it's tough, man, because not only after this season, you have 2 more years after this. So either in 2025, you pick up his 5th-year option, or you give him a new contract, or you decline it, which sounds like a long ways away, but he's out for the season. So you go into year 3, the year before you have to decide to pick up his 5th-year option, and he has almost no film, almost no game time. And if Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt, your season is obviously over. I had the Niners making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I have to stick to the take. I'm not going to switch back and forth. But I just feel bad for him. I'm not saying that he's going to do well, but I wanted to see what he could do, what he could be about. But like for Seattle, like I said, he got paid. Like he's not playing well. You can't say to a certain extent, well, oh, he didn't have the quarterback. Look how many quarterbacks McLaurin had. Look how many quarterbacks Hopkins had. Look what Megatron had to deal with. Look at what Amari St. Brown's had to deal with. Look at so many other guys who can't keep using that excuse to devalue or to limit a receiver. You can't keep making excuses for that kid. Oh, it's because of this. No, you need to hold him accountable to see what he's capable of. And we know what DK Metcalf is capable of. That's kind of partly also why he kind of dropped in the draft a little bit. And we're seeing that because sooner or later, the guy that has terrible taste in rap music is going to be on the field. We knew Geno Smith is not a quarterback in this league. We knew Week 1 was your Super Bowl. Playing Russell Wilson coming back to that stadium with fans booing him and thinking that he wanted to leave even though they've tried to trade him in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. I don't blame Russell Wilson for wanting to leave, but DK Metcalf, I get wanting him to get paid, like you said, and do what he could do this year. But if you don't have a quarterback, you're going to have to change your entire offense in 2023. So I think the Niners are the most, I would say dramatic, but most pressured team in the league because Jimmy Garoppolo, what's going to happen there? Trey Lance traded 3 first-round draft picks, and it's more criticized because trading those first-round draft picks. Clearly, we know, first of all, whether it's Trey Lance or not, this is the same thing that happened in Washington. Why is Trey Lance running up the middle like that, like a running back? This is why I'm a huge advocate for quarterbacks running the football, but not that being your main bread and butter and that being your style of offense, which is why I'm still not high on Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. If your main staple is running the football, Colin Kaepernick ran the football really well, couldn't pass. So we're talking about specifically guys at quarterback. It's great that you can like Russell Wilson, or in terms of numbers, not like Winston Wilson, but other guys like Breeze, who can maybe run here and there occasionally, very rarely, but can throw the deep ball. Trey Lance can't do that. So why would you let Trey Lance run up the middle there? He's out for the season. Yo, I'm not saying it's the both Shanahan's ruined RG3's career. Nearly 10 years ago, RG3 already went into New Orleans in the Superdome and threw over 300 yards for 2 touchdowns. That was over 10 years ago. Shanahan was there in Washington, and so was his dad. Shanahan's here in San Francisco. And it's the same thing. You can say, oh, but, well, you can try to justify it like he did in the press conference. But I think you and I, James, can agree they shouldn't have let him do that in the first place. Because yet again, here we go, nearly 10 years later. Their supposed star, first-round, top-5 quarterback. He's injured yet again. Do you think Kyle Shanahan made that mistake for letting Trey Lance run in the middle like that as a running back, especially knowing that he had Washington and RG3?
You had to see what he could do. I mean, if you're going to trade all those picks for him, you had to see what his ability was going to be. And you saw some of that in the preseason as well. It's amazing, though, how you put all your chips in one guy, and just like that, he's gone for that whole season. It shows you how crazy this NFL game is with injuries. Your season can turn with one bad play, one bad maybe decision, one bad play call, like you said, a run up the middle. But I think you had to see what he was going to do. They probably did it so many times in practice, a run like that up the middle, of course, with no, tackling or whatnot. So you had to see what he was going to do. And going back to what you said there about Lance, that's all I had, really. You had to see what he was going to do, what you traded for his ability to run. Again, it's unfortunate we won't see him again this year. And that pressure now is on Jimmy G. And the fan support for and against him will be so present. We don't know what's going to happen with the Seahawks quarterback carousel. Let's just say, I'm going to say it. I think Metcalf would benefit more if Drew Lock was in the game, but Drew Lock would have to be more accurate with his passes. Deebo Samuel, by the way, he had 107 yards combined, rushing and passing. So you didn't get that dose of Samuel, but they didn't need it. They had others to do well. Again, just unfortunate for Trey Lance. Some comments we have, by the way, John. Chrissy Wilson says, hi, guys. Hello. And we'll talk about the Cowboys right now. And she feels terrible for Trey Lance.
Skip it. No.
By the way, if you haven't seen her YouTube channel, check out Christy Wilson's pre- and post-game shows. She has great videos and great cowboy content. She was one, out of all the Cowboy fans that I've heard, she was the one person to say, hey, rally around Cooper Rush. We don't know how long Dak is going to be out, for sure. Everyone has to rally around Cooper Rush. And that's what Kirsten Wilson said. And we'll segue. It happened to be the Cowboys and your Bengals, John, playing. Right away, it was back and forth game, 7-0, 7-3, 14-3 Dallas, 17-3 at the half. Cowboys led little by field goals. Evan McPherson hitting them from 50 and 46, making it 17-9. Burrow with a clutch pass to Higgins to tie it at 17. And then Brett Maher slightly got it through the upright, a 50-yarder to win it, 20-17. Again, the Bengals are crushed by one field goal. Just unfortunate. Burrow, 199 yards passing, one touchdown, but damn, keep him upright. 6 sacks. He was sacked 6 times. I have to be careful with my S's. He's been sacked now a high total of 13 times through these 2 games. Keep him upright. Dallas, Cooper Rush, 235 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks, and 1 sack. Mixon on the ground, didn't do much. 19 carries, 57 yards. Longest run was 10. Burrow had a scamper for 12. Ezekiel Elliott, though, this seems to be a theme. He only had 53 yards rushing. Pollard 9 for 43. He did have a touchdown rushing. T. Higgins in the air for the Bengals, 6 receptions, 71 yards, and again that tremendous touchdown. Jamar Chase and Diggs did a pretty good job on him. 5 receptions, 54 yards, no touchdowns there. And again, the rookie receiver Brown for the Cowboys was the main squeeze for them. 5 receptions, 91 yards, and 1 touchdown. Lamb had 7 for 75. Pollard, though, had a reception for 46 yards. And Schultz this time did not do as well, 2 for 18. McPherson, though, 3 for 3. Maurer, 2 for 2. Quickly, I gotta get to the sacks. And I know it just seems like everybody had their shot at Burrow. Fowler had a sack. Van Der Esch had a sack as well. Armstrong had 2. Parsons again with 2. So he has 4 on the season. Micah Parsons trying to be NFL defensive player of the year. And he's already on a hot start, the fast track there. So, John, what did you think about that crushing comeback attempt that became a loss for your Bengals in Dallas?
First of all, the Bengals deserved to lose that game. The Cowboys earned the win. Was it a good win? I mean, defensive-wise, it was phenomenal. I'll give credit where credit's due. I'm not going to hide or whatever and be like, oh, it's because of this. Mike Brown, you're a freaking idiot. Joe Burrow is on pace to be sacked 100 freaking times. Not David Carr, not Cousins, not Brady, not Ben Roethlisberger, not Matthew Stafford with Detroit, who hasn't won or been to a Super Bowl since before my parents were born, probably, or ever. Jamar Chase, Boyd, Mixon, are you freaking kidding me? First of all, I got to give credit, though. Michael Parsons, though. I think we saw that Hall of Fame game before the 2021 season started. This guy's a really, really good player. And I would give him full credit, man. And I agree, though, Chrissy, and Vegas offensive line sucks. Joe Burrow is going to end up in a body cast and I think at some point, Shannon Sharp made a really good point. And I don't listen to the show very often because I lost respect for Skip, what he said about the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and everything a couple years ago. Joe Burrow is going to be another Andrew Luck. If you're going to continue at this rate. Andrew Luck retired early. Joe Burrow can say, oh, he loves to get hit. At some point, it's going to negatively affect him. And I said this and I thought this, even though they went to the Super Bowl last year, and congrats, Joe Burrow got sacked nearly 5 times per playoff game. That's going to catch up to him. How stupid. You got Collins. You got another offensive lineman, and you still can't protect freaking Burrow? Like, are you freaking kidding me? He's going to be on pace to be sacked 100 times. You're going to ruin his career before he turns 27. Like, this is what drives me nuts. This is not just about Joe Burrow. Like, Carson Wentz got hurt so many times. And Andy Dalton was not a good player, obviously, but he got sacked so many times. So did every single Bengals quarterback. And the Bengals, at some point in the early 2000s in training camp, players had to bring their own Gatorade to the training camp. You remember that story that Ocho Cinco and those guys? Like, are you freaking kidding me? 100 times this season. How stupid. You're dumber than Jerry Jones. You're dumber than the Browns owner. You're the dumbest owner. You're dumber than James Dolan with the New York Knicks. How do you address, to a certain extent, a position that has been having to be addressed for the past 25 plus years, and you still fail? You're going to be sacked 100 times this season. That's what pisses me off, because the Ravens lost, the Browns lost, the Steelers lost, the Bengals lost. Like, this is the another NFC least division in football. Are you kidding me? I want my team to succeed. I'm not going to hide when they lose or make excuses. But dadgummit, people, play some freaking football. You're being sacked 100 times. This is not about me as a fan and wanting my team to go 14-3. I want Joe Burrow to stay healthy. I want Joe Burrow to do, but I want my team to succeed. Like you're going to sack him. I don't blame him if he retired before he turned 25 or 26. Like I don't blame him because at some point, think about it. He drafted in 2020. This is his third season. You're going to his fourth year of his contract in 2023, and then you somehow potentially extend his contract in 2024. Then he continues to get sacked. He'll be lucky to get to that second contract at this point. Joe Burrow will be lucky to get to that 5th-year option or that 4th year because it just pisses me off. So not because, yes, I don't like the Cowboys. I would hope they go 0-17 every year. But at least with Christy Wilson, unlike most Cowboys fans think, she can be real and honest and not just say Super Bowl or Super Bowl after 1 win or 2 wins in the season. But it just makes me mad because it's not. I'm not saying that just because it's my team. If it was the Raiders, the Chargers, anything, 100 times, no one's ever gonna freaking beat that. Not when you had Terrell Pryor as your quarterback. Not with Blake Bortles. Not that Giants team. Not with Derek Carr. David Carr had less sacks. David Carr got sacked. Let me look this up because I want to prove a point because I'm done with Mike Brown. I will continue to be a Bengals fan, but I'm gonna call you out every single. How many times was David Carr sacked in 2002? We're gonna look it up. David Carr was sacked 70 times. Joe Burrow in the first 2 games was sacked almost a quarter of David Carr's all-time sacks in 2 freaking games. Are you freaking kidding me?
That won't work.
That is what pisses me off, 100%. And when I think I look at it now, it's like I'll give the Cowboys credit. I think when you look at the team, the organization, everything else, they earned the win. I'm happy for them. But it's tough, man. That just makes me mad.
Chrissy Wilson, let's get some of her tremendous comments. She mentions Kyle Shanahan is cut from the same cloth as his idiot father. Chrissy Wilson wanted us, and John especially, to talk about the Cowboys. She also mentions the Bengals offensive line sucks. Joe Burrow's going to end up in a body cast at some point. I heard like so many people say that from yesterday and today. She also mentions gotta love Micah Parsons. And I was gonna compare him to other linebackers out there or defensive players, but I want him to be the only Micah Parsons. I'll just start there. He's only in his 2nd year. I don't want to label him as something, you know. And then she also mentions, and I thought Jerry Jones was incompetent as an owner, but Mike Brown, the Bengals owner, takes the cake. And then when it comes to the Cowboys, I know better than to have high expectations. You know, every year, Super Bowl, I heard Scooter McGruger, you know, the guy on YouTube, he's like, hey, we're going back to back. Dak will be back. Everything will be fine. It's great when you have expectations, when you have a legitimate shot. You know, it does seem like every year you have the talent, but something always goes wrong. That's the unfortunate part, basically. The next game I got in the afternoon here was the home debut of Russell Wilson. Let's ride. Denver Broncos hosting the Texans, who tied with the Colts last week. Now, as we mentioned, and a lot of other people was talking to me about the bad start Wilson had offensively and how the crowd kept counting down the clock. And I thought that was amazing as well. I had a few people that were at that game as well. So both exchanged field goals. It was 9-6 after 3. Denver came up clutch with 1 touchdown and another field goal. It wasn't their best win, but they got a win for the Broncos. Davis Mills, he had 177 yards passing, no touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked 3 times. Russell Wilson with 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and was also sacked 3 times. Pierce on the ground, the rookie, had 69 yards only. Williams 75, Gordon only 47 for the rushing games. Really, nothing stood out about the Houston receiving core. Cooks had 54 yards there. Collins 58. Cortland Sutton had a great game though. 7 receptions, 122 yards. Saubert had the late touchdown to put them ahead. That was pretty much it. Judy had to, I believe, leave the game. He had 1 reception for 11 yards. Both teams had their field goal kickers make all their field goals. The sacks, though, Kirksley had one, or had a pick, I should say, and also a half of a sack. Green with 1.5, and Greenard had 1 sack as well. For the Broncos, Gregory, the former Cowboy, had a sack there. And then Jones had 2 for the Broncos. So what did you think about the bad start Russell Wilson had, and then they finally sort of got drives going? They had an important 4th down conversion that kind of opened up things later on for the Broncos.
Broncos country, let's ride.
First of all, this is the guy you nearly paid $260 million to. You score 16 points. The Chiefs are going to win that division. I was wrong. And I'll continue to stay with my pick, even though it's wrong, because that's the point of season predictions. 16 points. Russell Wilson, quarterback rating of less than 67. Paid over $250 million. Hasn't played a single game. You lost against Geno Smith, and Geno Smith played a Super Bowl MVP for week 1. Look how Geno Smith played in week 2. Sacked 3 times. Like, are you serious? You have Javonte Williams. You have Melvin Gordon. You have a pair of running backs. And this is why I think it's super important to understand, like, Russell Wilson is not a winning quarterback. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and this is where I think Bubbles, whatever, I don't know who this is, but we appreciate you coming in saying, I guess you've been a Jimmy G fan, or James Jaw's big fan, or okay, hey, we got our first hater, James. Let's go. I got my first hater.
Yeah, I'm like, who the hell is that?
It's all good and fun. I don't take it personally because, again, you don't pay the bills. But it's all good and fun. That's the whole point. Like, you disagree? Cool. No problem. That's me, James, disagree 50% plus of the time. But Russell Wilson is a guy that is not going to win your Super Bowl. Is he better than Mahomes? Is he better than Carr right now? Right now. No. The way he's playing, Derek Carr played better than him, numbers-wise, had much better game. We're talking about just numbers. We're not talking about, like, wins and losses. Numbers. Is he better? Is he better than quarterback than Carr? Is he a better quarterback than okay? Is he better than Herbert? Obviously, we know the pick six was a disaster. I'm not here to make excuses, but I think at the same time, looking at the ribs thing, I can give that some credit because that can knock the breath out of you to where you could stop breathing. You need a breathing tube. Is he better than Herbert, Mahomes, or Carr? No, he's the 4th best quarterback in the division in terms of numbers, not wins and losses. That's a whole nother story. Well, actually, not even though, because look at the last couple of years in Seattle. Russell Wilson is a fraud. You panicked. You couldn't get Rodgers. You could have gotten Justin Fields. This game, specifically, like 16 points against a team who just was involved in a lawsuit concerning a certain former quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Jerry Jeudy, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. As much as Fleck could give Melvin Gordon, for rightfully so, they can get some carries. They can get some yards. They can get touchdowns. Even if they stink it up, go in the red zone, use him in the red zone specifically for the rest of the game. You adjust your offense. Russell Wilson is playing like a backup quarterback through the first 2 weeks. You score, as I'm looking at it right now, all right, so at halftime, it was 6-6. This is a quarterback's taking you to a Super Bowl? No. Javonte Williams played really well, 75 yards, 5 yards a carry. Melvin Gordon nearly had 5 yards a carry. Sutton played really well. I think he had that catch that he thought a defender was behind him, and that could have been a touchdown there too. That may have been on that same drive. But I think I understand it takes a while early on. You have a head coach who's Nathaniel Hackett because he's a hack, but I get on offense takes a while to adjust, but the reason why for me, I may not be right because you and I probably disagree on this, but when you pay a guy that much money, I think it gets more looked at. I think it gets more criticized because you're a team that's supposed to contend, according to some people in the media. Russell Wilson does it. I think he's a great guy, but as a quarterback, this guy's not going to win. You're telling me he's going to win the Super Bowl over Mahomes in the AFC West. You're telling me he's going to win a Super Bowl over Justin Herbert in the AFC West. Carr can maybe have a conversation. I'm not talking about because of Carr, but I'm talking about like Russell Wilson's kind of mid-tier, like a Dollar General Kirk Cousins, but a little bit better, maybe. But I mean, it's hard because we've had 3 or 4 games where, like, I give you credit because, yes, it's a win. It's not a good – Jerry Jeudy came out of the game. You drafted him 15th or 16th overall in 2020, correct? Or 2019? This is a guy out of Alabama. Guy that played with – I think – was it Tua? Tua was the guy at the time. And then Jalen Hurts, I think. Jalen Hurts or Tua. I can't remember. So, people that are watching, whether you're a hater or not, just let me know. I'm not sure. But it's just because that's how my football friends go back and forth. To bring it back to the main point, the Texans and the Broncos, they're not that far off in the first 2 weeks in terms of how they're playing. You're telling me Russell Wilson and the Broncos can only score 6 points in the first half? I think Christian Wilson hit the nail in the coffin here. The expectations for Russell Wilson and Denver Broncos are too high in Denver because, like I said, James, after that Super Bowl against New England, that next year or two, they should have dismantled and tried to move on. But what did they do a couple of years ago? It gave Russell Wilson a new contract. That Laser to Boom should have divorced years ago. Marshawn Lynch went to Oakland before they went to Vegas, and they played in the Toilet Bowl. Oh, sorry, the Oakland Athletics Ballpark. I'm sorry. Same thing. But, I mean, it's a win. Like, I feel like we have 3 or 4 games, James. We're like, okay, I give you credit. It's a win. You didn't play well. You had an interception. Tua played better than Russell Wilson. Tua played better than a lot of these different quarterbacks. So I can't believe we're saying that. Tua was the best quarterback in week 2 of the 2022 season. Absolutely insane.
And both Jeudy and Patrick Surtain, the second PS2, both sustained injuries in that game, but both are considered day-to-day, like we all are. Christy Wilson saying, I think the expectations for Russell Wilson are just too high in Denver, and especially at the beginning of the season because of all the predictions, of all of the, the high you get from, hoping that you do well. And then from all the fans who expect right away, when you get the big money, expect to do well. So, and I know that franchise and fan base, they've been struggling to find their quarterback since Peyton Manning retired. Next game was typical, I think, for me. Arizona was playing the Raiders in Las Vegas. And this game was all Raiders at the half, 20-0. Felt good. I did at least. And I thought, okay, they're just going to maintain. Kyler Murray's just going to, stand down as short as he is. He won't do much. They don't have Hopkins. I don't have to worry about a comeback, whatever the case was. Then the Raiders kind of, let their foot off the gas like they always do with a lead. Anytime they get a big lead or a good lead by the half, they let the other team in the second half, and that's what happened. Penalties killed them at the end of the game. It was 23-15, 8:17 to go. Later on, Kyler Murray rushed was just running around like a little kid. You were trying to chase him around. You can't grab him because he's faster than you. Can't reach him. Almost like a chicken. When you chase chickens, that's what it felt like.
Here's your phone, little bro. Nope, sorry.
It looks like maybe he was preoccupied in the first half playing Call of Duty. Second half, he focused, he studied, and he did well. Threw for a 3-yard touchdown at the end of the game, converted the 2-point conversion to A.J. Green, who made a catch, but you could tell he hurt himself after. Tied at 23. They even get the coin toss and the ball first, and they had to punt it, did Murray and the Cardinals. Then Derek Carr led a drive like he always does late in the game. and they started to get in field goal range for Carlson. But instead of running the ball toward the middle of the field, getting closer, they pass for a second straight time to Renfro, and he fumbles not once but twice. And all of a sudden, that ball is picked up, and no Raiders are around to catch Byron Murphy Jr., and he runs all the way for a 59-yard game-winning touchdown with his father sitting in the front row there watching him score. I thought that was cool, despite my Raider fandom. I thought that was really cool to see. Not the win, though. So in overtime with 4:05 to go, that happened. The Raiders lose to the Cardinals 29-23 in a game the Raiders had. But what we've seen in the past, no matter who the coach is, no matter, what happens, the defense struggles. I mean, not in the first half, but second half, like I said, they let the whole team just let them back in. The old Raiders that I knew a long time ago, I wasn't even born basically, they would never let up. They would keep the foot to the pedal, keep going, and blow out teams and make sure, hey, don't let them come back. This generation of Raiders, even with a lead, they let everybody back in and make games very tough. And even if they won the game somehow, it would still feel like a loss to me. So I felt angry, but I was like, okay, this is what they do. This is what they're going to continue to do. Even with Josh Daniels, the defense will still honestly suck. And first half, like I said, again, they got sacks on Kyler Murray, pressured him, but somehow the adjustments were made with the Cardinals. The Raiders did not adjust back. It was just so unfortunate. Kyler Murray, 277 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and 1 sack by Max Crosby. Nothing by Jones, by the way, against his old team. What it felt like, too, every time Jones got close to Murray, they were just laughing at each other, giving each other dap high fives, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? During a football game. Derek Carr, 252 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 1 sack. Williams did gain a touchdown for the Cardinals. James Conner, the Raiders did do a good job in stopping him. He only had 25 yards rushing. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries, 69 yards. That won't get it done. They are without their backup, but he did have some good runs, but not enough. The Cardinals, receiving-wise, Ertz had 75 yards receiving. Hollywood Brown, 6 for 68. He had 1 catch that he should have made, but he got hit as the ball came. Rookie got him. But there was a catch you thought he would have had, and they would have easily been in field goal range, and they would have won by a field goal. Instead, they did it the hard way. For the Raiders, though, it was a very off game by Devontae Adams. 2 receptions and 12 yards. Like, what is that? Mac Hollins, who was on, the fringe of even making the team, but he's the 3rd receiver. He had the lead in yards. Renfro had the most receptions. Waller had the touchdown along with Adams. But I wanted to see more from Adams. But I think that young Cardinal defense did a good job with Adams there. So you got to give it up to the defense of Arizona. They made the plays. Isaiah Simmons, I think that was his name. They didn't have him play in the first half. And remember, he was drafted 8th overall by the Cardinals in 2020 out of Clemson. He was supposed to be a big piece of this defense. They started to put him in the second half, and he started to make some plays. And I think that was good to see by Arizona. They finally figured it out. J.J. Watt's not going to be in every play. But this is, again, the Raiders starting at 0-2. And usually the last few years they started 3-0. They make everything hard for me to be, watching. They make me hate football, as hard as that to say. But to only score 3 points in the second half and let the Cardinals score 23, and then, of course, the winning touchdown in overtime, that just pissed me off. So what did you think about that thriller in Las Vegas yesterday?
Do they not know how to play offense for the Raiders? Devontae Adams has 2 receptions in this game. Like, I know we know this doesn't contradict what we said last week. Oh, don't be so reliant on Devontae Adams. I agree. But 2 receptions. He probably had about 5 or 7. He should minimum 10 to 12 throws thrown his way, and that's not over deep in it because there's 4 quarters, 60 minutes. You still get to Renfro, who had a touchdown. Derek Carr had 1 rush for 9 yards, so you still had opportunities here. Like there is no excuse for McDaniels not to play. But for the Cardinals side of this, man, I think it's you're gonna hate me for this, but the Cardinals were in the red zone. 20 seconds, Kyler Murray had the ball in his hands. 20 seconds, running to the left, running to the right, left, right. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is insane. How is this possible? This reminds me of Madden when I used to play my cousin. Like, nope, you got me. Nope, sucker. And I give, I'm not just saying bashing right, but they basically deserve to lose. But I don't get it though, because it's not like they don't have the weapons. I think Kyler, we don't know who the leaders of this team's going to be, and I think this is going to be a thing where they go 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, maybe 7-1, but then they start to go downhill. There starts to be the drama of the Kardashian effect. The Cardinals aren't making the playoffs. I'm not concerned about that. But the Raiders don't. Carr, again, good game, 22, 25, 30, but we don't need, I think what you're thinking, maybe, I could be wrong because I'm not in your brain. We don't need he played a good game, 252, 2 sets. We need to have a phenomenal game. We need that defense to get to the quarterback like we did in the first half.
Yeah, one thing, Kyler Murray had that amazing rushing touchdown. I mean, it looked like he was running around for forever. He seems like that little kid who doesn't listen to his parents about anything, but he goes out and just does what he does and wins miraculous games. Well, anyway, that was the afternoon game. One more game. Chicago, Green Bay. This rivalry since 1920, the oldest, went the way we thought. I mean, after a while, the Bears, they won the first quarter. Great. Whole nother 3 quarters. And Green Bay took over. Basically, they won the game easy after that, 27-10. It was 7-3 at the end of 1. Then 21 unanswered points in the second quarter. Both exchanged field goals in the second half. It's what we thought the Bears were going to be against the Packers. All that hype from week 1 for the Bears just went away. Basically, Rodgers did his thing. Let's get to the stats really quick. So Justin Fields, only 70 yards passing, 1 interception and 3 sacks. Rodgers, 234 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. Now, the only thing was when the Bears were doing well, they were running the ball early with Montgomery, who was going to be overshadowed by the rookie Herbert. I think he took that to note, took that to heart, and he played better, rushed better. 15 carries, 122 yards. Fields did have that rushing touchdown to the corner. He should have had another one, but replay didn't go their way. It was very tough to see, but I thought the ball got on the white line for the touchdown, but they had to go with the no evidence way, I guess. I don't know. Aaron Jones also did well on the ground, 15 carries, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. Dillon with 61 yards on the ground. I remember during the week, Packers were saying, hey, we should get our running game going. It looked like they were very one-dimensional in week 1 against Minnesota. Well, they did that. For the Bears, nothing much in the air. St. Brown had 39 yards receiving. Sammy Watkins led the Packers with 3 receptions, 93 yards. But Aaron Jones had 3 receptions for 38 and 1 touchdown receiving. Lazard also had a touchdown receiving. But, John, this is, again, another example of not only Aaron Rodgers, but the Packers owning Chicago once again. What did you think about the Sunday night game?
Why doesn't Rodgers become the owner of the Bears? Why doesn't Rodgers become the mayor of Chicago? I mean, this guy owns everything about the Chicago, from the deep dish to the defense to the offense. And it's like, even though this is where I thought at least the Bears were trying, it's not like it was like for some people that weren't watching the game, it's not like it was like a 20-3 most of the game. Like, the Bears had a chance to come back. I thought, oh my gosh, the Bears are going to come back and win this game in Green Bay at I just said whatever they call this team. I don't like the Packers, but they had a chance there. But Herbert run the ball really well. Justin Fields got a touchdown and towards the red zone there, so that was really good. But I think with Chicago, like, we knew, like, if you're a genuine NFL fan or football fan, you knew it's not just that, the hype was gone for last week. We know that the Bears are going to have some gains here and there that are going to show their progression. But we both know that their best season is not going to be in 2022. It's going to be in 2023, 2024. But this game specifically, I mean, yet again, am I shocked the Packers won? No, I picked the Bears, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah, you did.
I was 100% wrong. And it's not about Rodgers. It's just they're going to be great in the regular season yet again. Come to the playoffs. They're going to lose. They only scored like 10 points last year. So can't really tell me that Rodgers is a good quarterback currently. But I give him credit. They win again. Why doesn't Aaron Rodgers buy the Chicago Bears when he retires? Like, that to me, I think would be a perfect middle finger to the Bears organization. And to any fans that get mad about that, play better. It's that simple. Like, it's that you play better. Like, all they have is Sammy Watkins. All they have is maybe Lazard. I'm not saying the Bears have much better weapons, but play better. Like, I have no problem with saying Aaron Rodgers, I own the Chicago Bears. I think it's funny.
Chrissy Wilson mentions at least Allegiant Stadium showed the end of Game 4 of the WNBA Finals, in which the Las Vegas Aces win their first WNBA championship in franchise history. Their trio of their main players there, Kelsey Wilson, Aja Wilson, and Chelsea Gray, both winning their first championship, and more to come, I think, in Las Vegas. Ben Cruz also saying, "What's up, you guys?" And hey, Ben, he's out there in the Northeast, upper Northeast. Shout out to you and your Patriots for winning. Mm-hmm. So, John, the picks. You won 8, I won 6. Guess what, though? We both picked Buffalo and Minnesota tonight. So no matter what, you win week 2 here. I believe you win the total. Week 1 and 2 picks by 1.
Because I've lost track. Like, I've lost track, to be honest. I need to do better math. But like, what's the total for both of us? Like, to be honest, because I've made some really bad picks the first 2 weeks, to be honest.
No, I did for this week. Baltimore, Cleveland, Washington, the Saints, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Raiders. Right away in those early games, I started to look at the scores like, oh no. Oh God, I am done. But only by 1, I was shocked. But let's get quickly to the 2 Monday night games. And this is an experiment. I like 2 Monday night games, but on opening, the first week. I don't like it on the second week. And one is going to go on, and then the other will be right in the second half of the first game. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. But anyway, the first game is Tennessee at Buffalo. Tennessee, of course, came off the loss against the Giants in Nashville, pretty much in heartbreaking fashion. But they let the Giants get the 2-point conversion. Titans miss a field goal to lose. Buffalo had a lot of time off like the Rams did. They demolished LA in the opening game of the week. Buffalo looks really good. Again, my Super Bowl pick. What do you think this game is going to look like? For me, though, I think Buffalo runs over Tennessee tonight.
Oh, without that, I think we know that it's not like it's going to be like a Washington Jaguars game, like, okay, Washington or the Detroit one. That's a little bit different. But it's Ryan Tannehill, who we know the narrative is already done. We know he's done as a starter. Josh Allen or Ryan Tannehill. This is Josh Allen. This is my left hand. This is Ryan Tannehill. What have done here? We're obviously picking Buffalo. You got. I don't know if Gabriel Davis is a because you're playing, but I think we know those guys. Like I said early on, are going to get a lot of catches. We saw them in the playoffs. Yeah, the running core that's starting to kind of get the here and there. I think sometimes it can easily go both ways. Where you had a bunch of time off, go to the Bahamas, like prepare, practice, and everything. But honestly, I think Tennessee's going to be a little bit defeated. I'm not saying it's going to be like a Chiefs and Cardinals game in week 1. But they're defeated. You lost against the Giants, who have so many things going on within the organization, where you're a team that's supposedly, you're a contender. You've been a contender the past 4 years, and look what's happened. Nothing has happened. So I picked Buffalo to win this game, and I don't know about the whole AFC East, though, but I think Buffalo, though. Definitely going to win this game. I'm terrible at score predictions, but I'll say 32-17.
Now, one thing about the injury report here with Tennessee, Dontrell Hilliard, who was a big part of their scoring last week, is going to be out with a hamstring injury. Kristen Fulton is a corner. He'll be out with a hamstring injury as well. For Buffalo, Gabe Davis is questionable with an ankle injury, and that might be a little important there, depending how much attention is on Diggs. You might see Dawson Knox get those catches. Ed Oliver is a big part of their defensive line. He's a defensive tackle. He's also out. So that's a little troubling when you think about it, but I still think Bills will win that. And that's coming up at 4:15 out here, 7 out there. 6 your time. And then for some reason, there's a game, 5:30 my time, 7:30 yours, 8:30 out in Philadelphia. ESPN and ABC will have these games for some reason. Hopefully, Buffalo is up by so much at the half that you just ease into the Minnesota-Philadelphia game. Now, this game has a lot of intrigue. It has a lot of young players, a lot of offensive great players, a lot of great receivers too when you think about it, and 2 great ones. Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, 2 quarterbacks who are really under a lot of scrutiny. Kirk Cousins, always under the gun. Jalen Hurts, just trying to take a team to the promised land, and he's so young, though. That's one thing we have to remember. So Minnesota and Philly both 1-0. This game, to me, in Philadelphia, it feels like who's ever going to have the ball last will have the shot to win. And if it comes down to field goal kicking, we all know Minnesota may not have the edge on that, unfortunately. There's not many injuries that, stand out except Derek Barnett, the defensive end. Of course, he's on the IR with a torn left ACL. So nothing much, of course, on the Vikings part. We both have Minnesota. You have to wonder how explosive Jefferson's going to be.
I think I got my. Actually, I'm going to change my pick before the game starts. I'm picking the Eagles to win.
I feel like that too, but I'm going to go with Minnesota. I'm going to go with.
I know they nearly lost against Detroit, and Detroit what they did here in week 2, but I think Jalen Hurts he's going to play really well against his teams early on, and later on this season it's going to be more contested with these playoffs and potential playoff and Super Bowl contenders. But I'll pick the Eagles in this game. And James, the season's already over. Just give me the $50 gift card. It's over. Just admit you defeat. I've played the best of the best. I'm gonna fuck.
It feels like it already.
I know it's crazy, man. Week 2 it feels like week 18, but I love it.
I feel like there's no chance. Quickly run down the unfortunate part of the injuries of the game here with week 2. Of course, you start with Trey Lance, and we mentioned his part, his injuries, or broken ankle there. Were there more injuries that stood out to you in this week 2? I know I can only think about Trey Lance's. I can't think of any more that stood out, honestly.
Trey Lance had to be the biggest one, if not
Yeah.
of the season, because I think who knows about Herbert? He may be week by week, he may miss a game or two, and you're cool. But this is a big, really big thing for not just necessarily Trey Lance, but also the 49ers organization and Kyle Shanahan. 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to see Kyle Shanahan there. Remember, they have a new defense going. I say new compared to Robert Salah, who's in New York right now and playing really defense-wise not that great. But compared to the quarterback that Shanahan likes, Shanahan wants, Trey Lance is out for the season. You only have technically 2 more years to then. Luckily, if you're lucky, you have 2 more years for Trey Lance. You may not have that 5th year. He may be traded. So at that point, if he goes gone, remember, I think someone said this in one of our chats. Jimmy Garoppolo, they're free of Jimmy Garoppolo's contract after the season.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, if you don't re-sign Garoppolo, it sucks though, because week by week, oh, we love Jimmy G. He's our guy. We believe him. Oh, you suck. You should be on the practice squad. You couldn't play Madden on rookie mode. So it's like week by week. But I think at some point, I think what they're going to do is either you re-sign Jimmy G in the offseason or you look at a guy in the 3rd or 4th or 5th round. But I think if it's best, get a guy in the late rounds, set him behind Jimmy G. Because you don't know, even if Trey Lance comes back next year, actually, because he'll still be on the team, we don't know what is his health going to be like. We don't know if he's going to be 100%. You see guys with torn ACLs, ankles. RG3 never played the same. His career was over after 1 season. I'm not saying it's happening with Trey Lance, but you see a potential common denominator. They were season-ending injuries. The Shanahans, mobile quarterbacks get hurt. We're seeing this over and over and over. Shanahan in Cleveland, who didn't want Manziel. Look how that worked out. They actually wanted another guy. So we kind of forget Shanahan and mobile quarterbacks don't mix. But honestly, it's going to definitely deeply effective moving forward.
By the way, Mike Evans was suspended 1 game with his incident with Marcus Lattimore. That's just coming up here. He's going to try to he's going to appeal the suspension, but we'll see what happens. That was a crazy thing. And one thing I think you mentioned, and they're going to try to get the other players who was in that. Lattimore should get something, possibly Fournette maybe, but I had to bring this up. You think there should be more fights in the NFL?
Yeah. Like I get, like, at some point you got to make the league safe, but at some point I think where the NFL is like trying to make it more and more safe, you're seeing more and more injuries. There's not going to be a perfect solution. That being said, I want to see guys show more. I want to see a Hopkins and D'Angelo Hall type of fight occasionally, whether it's in practice or on the field, because it shows your passion or injury. You don't talk ish to my quarterback. You don't do that. Now, was he the only one that was in the final application? Now, if Mike Evans is the only one that got suspended, yeah, it's just 1 game, they're 2-0. But if he's the only one that got suspended, that to me, that seems like a bunch of horse manure. Like that's absolutely ridiculous. Lattimore, I believe, did start it. But, yeah, Mike Evans, I honestly, if I was Mike Evans, I would have done the exact same thing. And even if I don't get the suspension, you talk ish about my quarterback. I mean, what do you think is going to go into his face and Brady's face? What do you think the players or the Bucks going to do? I get, like, you have fights in practice, nothing happens. I get games are a lot different than practice, but what's wrong with an occasional fight in the league? It makes it more fun. It makes it more energetic. There's more passion. There's more energy. You try to make it more like a ballerina tutu league, nobody's going to care. And so that's what I think at that point. I liked it. It was like 10 to 15, 20 guys. I'm like, oh, my goodness, this is going to go insane. Fournette maybe suspended, but it was fun to watch. I like some occasional fights of football. You throw the guy in the football upside. I miss those Michael Crabtree and Josh Norman days, or Odell Beckham and Josh, where the guys are peeling off their chains and knock each other out, or trying to. Those are the kind of things I want to see once in a while in football. Go like what's his name did to Travis Kelce in Week 1, where he just WWE just slammed Travis Kelce back to the ground. Those are the type of tackles and stuff that I want to see.
So we hope to have our 5th episode made sometime after the Thursday night game between Pittsburgh at Cleveland, and that doesn't sound like a real sexy matchup, but we'll see. Gabe Davis, by the way, inactive. He will not be playing for Buffalo for sure tonight. So that's the late news coming in. So we'll see you sometime during the week here to have our 5th episode of Punt Off. But John, what's your final thoughts of our show today?
No, it was a good and fun show as always. Like I said, we have our busy work schedules, but we're going to pre-record our episode this week. So when y'all see it probably this coming Friday or Saturday, or give or take, it's going to be pre-recorded. So if we're not answering your questions, we're not ignoring you. We're not giving the Kim K to Kanye. We're not ignoring y'all. It's pre-recorded. We're doing we're going to work our hours or extra hours. It's just life. The boss calls you in, you go into work. It's nothing out of the ordinary. We'll have episode 5 this weekend. Want to thank Casey King, Christy Wilson, the other Christy Wilson, whoever this random hater was, we appreciate it, and Ben Cruz. We thank you all so much for watching. For Ben, for Christy, for the hater, and for Casey King. You all can punt off, and we will see y'all, I believe. Yeah, we'll see y'all later, and you all can punt off. If they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. I said, I think Brady's going to crumble.
How about Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr.?